Yo, do you remember that show Dora the Explorer? Well, obviously a man in his 30s, was not a viewer. I have a 4-year-old Latina daughter, and I was perusing some VHS tapes to watch over the break. I, being a good parent, monitor what my daughter does to ensure that nothing terrible happens to her. Well, I know you probably think forcing your daughter to watch old VHS tapes is child abuse. In a way, maybe it is, but millions of parents in America hit their children. And personally, I think that's worse. I purchased the VHS tape online. I'd heard a lot about those creepy stories that have hundreds of thousands or millions of hits on the Google, and I assumed they were all just fake. But what happened completely shattered the thin frame of what I thought was reality. It potentially destroyed my family. For those who haven't watched Dora the Explorer, it's the show about a young Hispanic girl who goes on various adventures. To be honest, I couldn't give two fucks about any of that. I was Snapchatting pictures of delicious lobsters I'd illegally smuggled to a buddy of mine in Cleveland while my daughter sat there watching the tape. The old mistake by the lake. We suddenly heard loud screaming and someone saying he's been stabbed in the neck. "He'll take your eyes," a voice murmured. "He'll take your eyes." Strange. I assume maybe this was a prank being played by the VCR repairman. Fixed this VCR just 15 years ago today. Maybe it was just my imagination. We elderly folks do have a tendency to imagine things that aren't there. Places, even people. I'm getting old. Too fucking old for this. I'm just not feeling it anymore. Not since I auditioned to be a Pokemon and it was actually... Well, the episode played as normal, or what I would assume is normal because I've never seen this show before. I mean, after all the screaming about being stabbed and having one's eyes stolen, I suddenly noticed there was a man in the other room sitting on my couch. I guess it was a man. Whoever it was, he turned the other cheek and the other way and wasn't moving. Well, this show is just about teaching kids to read, right? All of a sudden, Uncle Jesus came in with his nostrils flaring. "Vamanos!" he screamed. Evidently, the jig was up. I had smuggled my daughter into the country 3 years ago from Mexico, disguising her as a bag of oranges and a box of vanilla mint cigarrillos. "Vamanos, el Zulu se acerca y no tengo pantalones," he screamed. I now realized he was not wearing any pants. I offered him a shirt and a sewing kit, and he tried quickly to sew some makeshift pants, but it was just too late. He tripped and smashed his head into the side of the sink. We live in inefficiency. And fell bleeding from the head. Well, I would have taken him to the hospital, but I didn't own a car or a phone, and besides, he was already dead. I'd bury him later as I didn't want to interrupt this fine VHS program. It was hard to tell what was going on, to be honest. It just looked like a wolf was fighting with a Latina girl while a map talked to her. Oh, it was so disturbing. I shut the tape off and sent my daughter to her room, a straw mat in the corner. That was when the police kicked the door down and opened fire. They were shooting at a 4-year-old. The cops pumped 116 rounds of live ammunition into the straw mat that my daughter was sitting on. They called in a SWAT team and helicopters began to circle around the house. I was detained but then released, but the border police were monitoring my every move for 3 weeks. Count 'em, 3. My daughter was missing. Gone. Oh, I have no idea what happened to her. Part of me vaguely remembered sending her to live with her Uncle Sans in Puerto Vallarta, so I wrote letters there in the hope that my memory wasn't fading. As I sifted through bill after bill on a daily basis, I wondered strongly about what had happened to her. A letter A postcard? Anything? Oh, I did never need to see her again, to be honest. I just wanted to know that she was okay. Part of me wondered if maybe that VHS tape was haunted. I put it back in and started watching it again, noticing that there was something sad about it. The characters were going through the motions, engaging in the usual routines, but their hearts weren't in it. The actors weren't emoting, the backdrops looked dead. There was almost no animation whatsoever. Dora's movements were literally 2 frames, while what sounded like an intern gave a deadpan delivery of the lines. Wait. No. I thought it was my daughter. Never mind, that wouldn't make any sense. We were watching the tape together. The tape gets really weird around the 10-minute mark. You see, Dora's umbilical cord hadn't been severed, and she's attached to some large demonic brain machine. It's a brain with red eyes and horns, and a snarling hoarse nose. Its eyes are yellowed and filled with every color imaginable as well. It seems to be carrying a fire, or the fire is within it. It whispered something in Spanish with subtitles. The subtitle read, "Your eyes are the outside world, and it is looking in." Strange thing to say in a children's program, to say the least. I picked up the telephone and decided to file a missing persons report. But somebody had severed the cord. That was when I heard the whispering. Oh, it was a low whispering at first, but then it grew louder, to medium, and then high-level whispering. Psst! What in God's name was that? Psst! It whispered. I picked up the VHS slipcase. A small square of paper fell onto the floor. It looked like some sort of topographic map of a national park, but it had eyes that looked almost holographic and a smile. Oh, I know you'd never believe me in a million years if I told you the truth, but the truth is, it started to sing. If there's a place you gotta go, I'm the one you need to know. I'm the map, I'm the map, I'm the map, I'm the map. I'm the map, I'm the map, the map, a map, I'm the map, and a map, oh, I'm the map. Shut up! I screamed and picked up my lighter, igniting the strange map. It screamed in pain and began to cry and bleed, and the tears and blood put the fire out. "You burnt me!" the map screamed. "You fucking burnt me!" I picked the map up and squeezed the life out of it, strangling it to death. Like Bill Cosby strangling a prostitute. There's no need for a map to talk, to be honest. The instructions are clearly written on the map. I didn't need this shit. I put the coordinates into my GPS and climbed my brand new Ford Explorer. I drove to the western edge of California, but I hit a weird fence that had been erected on the way to my hometown of Mexico. It was disturbing. A massive metal fence that reached high into the sky. Certainly an unwelcoming message to those Hispanic immigrants seeking refuge, not unlike those who sailed to America over 100 years ago with the promise of the American dream. Maybe this was the American nightmare. I followed that fence as far as I could, but it went on forever without a single break in the pattern. That was when the border police pulled me over. I looked over at the map crumpled in the corner. If they saw it, I'd be certain to get arrested for attempted mapicide. "Do you have anything to declare?" they asked me. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. They weren't police cops. They were aliens. And not the illegal kind. Oh, unless you think scaly glass-eyed cryptids with scales, fangs, and rigid backs should be illegal. As I certainly do. The strange creatures hissed at me. I looked behind them and beyond them to see a bloody goat with its throat slit laying next to the fence. I quickly fumbled in my wallet to find some Denny's coupons. I told them it was buy one, get one free, and we could split the bill. I said that they have a dwarf's turkey and dressing dinner that is vastly superior to whatever goat meat they were attempting to eat. As we drove to Denny's, I learned that they were the legendary Chupacabra aliens, the goat-murdering aliens from Mexican folklore. One of the aliens got some baking soda out and began making cocaine, which he snorted through a ventricular nostril. Oh, he called it cosmic dust, but it was clearly cocaine. I just didn't like the fact that he was lying to me, because lying is a sin, and that makes you a liar, and you go straight to fucking hell. The Denny's waitress was so very rude. She refused to serve aliens, which was at first understandable until I realized that she was referring to me and my Hispanic heritage. We'd stopped at a party city and gotten them satirical alien costumes. One was dressed as Chewbacca, and the other was wearing a mask that resembled Ross Perot. I've got $4 billion. We sat down, and it turned out that the dwarves' turkey and dressing dinner was only available for a limited time, but it was just a retitled turkey menu item that I and Gorblick ordered. Rasp Arrow, ironically that was his name, but he spelled it differently, ordered a large cup of goat's blood, but settled on the super bird when he found out that they didn't serve goat products. As we enjoyed our coffee and blood, the waitress came back with a spiky tendril cordyceps that Gorblick had inserted into her spinal cord to make her subordinate. She was foaming from the mouth. But otherwise, the service was good. I told them about how my daughter had gone missing and took out the Polaroid of her I kept in my wallet for nostalgic purposes. They informed me that that couldn't be my daughter, and even turned the picture over to point out that it's the kind that comes with a frame when you buy a picture frame at the Walmart. Well, maybe I didn't have a daughter. Oh, they weren't aliens, by the way. It was all a prank. Thank goodness, I thought I was going mad there for a second. They took the first costume off and then the second one, the alien one, revealing that they were actually the border police, and this was a new technique they were using to sniff out illegals who were thinking about smuggling children into the country and adding to our nation's GDP with increased economic labor. Oh, that's so fucking horrible. They assured me that I didn't have a daughter, that the VHS tape I saw was just some sort of nationalist propaganda made by Washington fat cats. I could have swore I had a little girl, though. I remember taking her to Chuck E. Cheese and buying her Hispanic Barbie dolls. They assured me I didn't have a daughter, and just to stop worrying, to go home and watch some professional sports by eating a piping hot bowl of my favorite cheese and nacho dip. Yeah. Sounds like a good idea to me, I said. I cleaned my hands of this whole thing. Part of me felt like they were sweeping all of this just under the rug. I mean, the VHS tape, the strange VHS tape with the umbilical brain, the person being murdered, a man on my couch, my missing daughter, the bleeding, the screaming map that I happily killed. The massive metal fence looked like something out of a dystopic horror film. Well, they confiscated the VHS tape and stomped on it like a Hispanic man would contempt at refried beans. I felt confused, lost, and disheveled. They explained to me that an intern at Nickelodeon Studios named Eric Weiner had left the microphone on. That's Weiner! Shut up. Had left the microphone on while playing with the Mr. Potato Head toy. Well, that explained the whole "he'll take your eyes" bit I heard earlier. He had also been stabbed with a pen, rather jokingly, by a co-writer who was aiming the pen at the paper but accidentally stabbed him. The whole umbilical brain thing was supposed to be a tie-in for a new Taco Bell promotional item, the Brain Lupa. A delicious third pound of cow brain in a delicious small sauce with sour cream. Well, I guess that made sense. The map was also one of the toys that was going to come with the Brain Lupa Kids pack, which didn't really make sense because the production cost would have been in the thousands. Well, they assured me it was just a prototype and the real one would have been a cheap knockoff assembled in a Chinese sweatshop. And that would make things okay. As for my missing daughter and the man on my couch, they assured me that was all just trapped swamp gas that has a tendency to flare up and create the illusion of light and motion. It all made sense then. Well, I got into my Ford Explorer and prepared to drive away, putting this whole fiasco behind me once and for all. As they turned on their motor vehicle, I suddenly paused. "Wait a minute!" I yelled at them just as they were leaving. "What about the Dora the Explorer VHS? That didn't make any sense. I mean, it all added up until you get to that. I knew what I saw on the tape." "The what?" they said. "Dora the Explorer," I repeated. "Dora the Explorer?" They stopped, frozen. Uh, uh, mm. The two police officers smiled at me. "I think you got confused. You got confused. You best believe you got confused." He pointed to the passenger door on my Ford Explorer. "I think you meant door of the Explorer." No," I said. "Wait," he said. "Ah?" I said. "Door of the Explorer." Then they got into their police vehicle and drove off into the sunset, leaving me without any gas or means of getting home.